Welcome to the 2021 Materials Research Society Fall Meeting. We are incredibly excited to welcome all of our members back in person to Boston, Massachusetts for 4 days of symposium sessions, keynotes, and award talks, and much more. This is MRS TV. It is the moment we have all been waiting for as MRS's fall meeting comes to Boston, Massachusetts, with attendees gathering from across the world, both in person and virtually. Today's show starts our series of interviews with notable experts in materials research science, including Symposium X speaker John Martinis on materials for superconducting qubits, Alan Ray on sustainable product design, and finally, we join a number of innovative research institutions from across the world. But first, over to our co-host, Stacy Circasoon, for a conversation with incoming MRS President Carolyn Duran.
We're now welcoming Dr. Carolyn Duran, who is the incoming president of MRS. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure to be here.
Well, congratulations on your new position. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what the work took to get here?
It's been a passion of mine to stay engaged, and when given the opportunity to see if I could take on a higher leadership position and help the society out, I put my hat in the ring, and then the membership elected me.
So, time is some of the most valuable things that a person has. So you're now committing about 3 years to this?
Yes.
So what inspired you to make such a long commitment to MRS?
For me, it was really giving back. I've always been engaged. I've been in industry my entire career after finishing graduate school, and have not been always able to come to the meetings, and I've not always practiced material science in my day job, but I've always stayed engaged, particularly with the Government Affairs Committee. And when I think about the community, I remember fondly my first time I got to come to a meeting, the people I met, the true interdisciplinary nature of the work. My company that I work for, which is Intel, also supported me to do this, so they allowed me to carve out some time from my day job to commit to this, which is really nice of them as well.
Yeah. So now, speaking of your day job, what are some things you can bring from your day-to-day there into the MRS?
One thing I do see that the society has a lot of members that are in academia or national labs, and a ton of students, of course. And so from an Intel perspective or an industry perspective, turning good ideas into products, understanding the real engineering questions that are necessary to say, well, I can make one of these things, but can I make millions upon millions of them? And is there a business model that makes sense? So some of those aspects really, as you think about science and then turning that into engineering, can play a big role. And then additionally, the whole semiconductor industry, which is my field, is growing like mad. So from a student perspective, I really want to tie industry and academia together.
Part of your role now, is science advocacy. So can you tell me why that's so important in MRS and globally?
Well, science is our future. We can't lead the path forward, and you can look at it from the coronavirus and the medical research and all the work that's been done in that place. Unless we put emphasis in the future of science and future innovations, we'll stagnate as a society.
So come January, you officially start taking up your presidency, no longer vice president. What are some plans that you have?
Well, one of my goals, as I sort of mentioned earlier, was to tie industry and the academia and national labs together. And then I'd also really interested in continuing to drive the diversity and equity and inclusion efforts that we have, and young career folks. Thank you so much for having me again. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm excited for the meetings.
And now to the first of our visits to labs around the world. It's the Research Institute for Intelligent Wearable Systems at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University.
The Research Institute for Intelligent Wearable Systems is to conduct interdisciplinary research to advance knowledge and create new technology, then transfer this technology to industry to help the development of new knowledge-based industry in Hong Kong and beyond. We have 3 areas of research: high-performance materials, and devices that's suitable for wearables, to develop scalable processing technologies for fabricating devices and system integration, to apply these systems into different fields like health, sports, fashion, entertainment, and safety. We have developed technologies to use the existing machinery and process, modify them to make the finest electronic yarn, where the microelectronic chips are embedded in textile yarn. Then you can knit these yarn or embroider these yarn into fabrics to make devices and systems.
MRS TV is brought to you from the 2021 MRS Fall Meeting. You can find us in person at the Heinz Convention Center, in select hotels, on the homepage of the meeting platform, and online. From award winners to research center visits, it's all on MRS TV.
The basic idea is that you can encode information in a different way with quantum mechanics. Whereas with classical mechanics, it's either a 0 or 1. You can think of a coin on a table, heads and tails. But in quantum mechanics, you can do it so that it's both 0 and 1 at the same time. So if you think about a coin, it's no longer 0 or 1, but it can be rotated at any angle. Quantum mechanics allows you to have these kind of states, and then using these laws of quantum mechanics, you can then manipulate information with these so-called superposition states. I go back to my graduate student days in the mid-1980s at UC Berkeley, where we basically made the first superconducting qubits, showed that they obeyed quantum mechanics and the like. And it's been this wonderful goal of my life to take this very basic physics and then through the years, and with many other people around the world, to build that up into a computational device. And I would say kind of like the capstone of my career is doing this quantum supremacy experiment where we showed a quantum computer was indeed very powerful. So that was amazing and to see the whole career starting from basic physics and then working for a company and do that. I mean, the next goal is to not just show that the quantum computer can be powerful on some mathematical problem, but to actually do something useful with it. And it's great that a lot of people around the world are doing that. And I have some interest in doing that too. So there may be some things in the futures coming out where we're going to work towards that. But I'd like to continue, helping, scale it up and get to the useful level if that's possible.
NV microscopy is a recent development that has extended nanometer imaging and analysis into the world of magnetic fields, currents, electric fields, and noise. Let's take a look at how QSaber are making these microscopy tools more accessible.
So at QSaber we try to get the most out of a scanning NV system by enhancing the performance of each individual part for characterizing surfaces at the nanometer scale.
The scanning tip is important for the measurements because it contains the NV center, which is our field probe. Furthermore, the nanopillar structure in the diamond helps to improve collection efficiency so that we can collect more of the NV center fluorescence.
Another unique feature of the QSM is really the optic set. We have put a lot of engineering and thoughts into designing custom optical elements that immediately impacts the signal to noise that translates into better data quality and faster measurement time.
When using pulsed protocols, you gain sensitivity because you reduce effects such as power broadening when you use continuous wave experiments.
The most important results in the past year or two have been made with antiferromagnetic materials. And we're also looking in other imaging modalities. So the idea of this instrument will be to do correlated imaging of electric fields, magnetic fields, and maybe optical properties.
Welcome Alan Ray of the New York State Excellence in Materials Informatics. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So within the next couple of days, you will present the real-life challenges and opportunities sustainable product design. 3 times during this meeting, Monday and Tuesday at 5:30, and then again Wednesday at 4:30. What are some things attendees will hear when they come to one of your sessions?
Well, this is a very interesting group to talk to because we've got all the people that are going to be framing our future with the products and systems that we use. So the idea is to get people thinking about how they can design sustainability into the products, either standards or legislation, depending what career they go into.
You mentioned the importance of commercial viability when creating materials and devices. Is that a piece of the puzzle that scientists can find challenging for research?
It's challenging because it's often difficult to know what's going to be economic and what isn't going to be economic. And also you don't know whether something's going to work until customers have actually bitten into it or used it. So that is a definite challenge. And what we need to do is help people think through and talk to other people and communicate to find out before they actually go down a wrong alley.
What are some examples of products or devices that you feel have benefited by focus on sustainability?
Well, if you look at the challenge of plastics, so there's been a big problem with plastic pollution, but the people that produce the packages, like for example Coca-Cola, I've got no affiliation with Coca-Cola, they're now absolutely leading in using recycled material, so using recycled bottles and reducing the waste.
And so when you spoke to MRS TV in 2017, you stressed that researchers needed to look beyond the ecological aspect of their work and also look at the economic and societal impacts. Has there been improvement in that area since that time?
I think people are a lot more aware. I think Europe and parts of Asia are the leaders in that, but definitely there's a lot more interest and awareness in sustainability. The publicity about climate change and other areas has really started people talking a lot more than they were in 2017.
And what more can be done in this area and can change as much as consumer driven as it is research driven?
I think consumer education is important because consumers can be huge drivers of what the products are going to be and how they're going to look. In terms of restaurants, in terms of even things like airline food, we can make a huge difference by exercising our wallets and deciding what we're going to buy and what we're not going to buy.
Well, thank you so much, Alan Ray, for joining us, and good luck this week. I know you have a big week ahead.
Thank you so much.
And now to KAUST, Organic Bioelectronics Laboratory, where researchers are developing organic electronic materials that interface with living systems.
Making electronic devices for biological systems is very challenging. Electronics just simply do not understand what living systems are trying to say, or it becomes very difficult to make living systems to respond to electronic cues. My lab deals with organic electronic devices and their applications that they interface with living systems.
Once we establish the ability of materials to translate signals, we use them to fabricate our own devices.
One of our favorite devices is the organic electrochemical transistor. These devices allows us to benchmark the transport properties of the polymers we study.
The OECG is interfacing directly with living cells. We can visualize non-invasively the growth of the cell during a long period of time.
One of the most timely contributions of our lab is the coronavirus sensor.
We are very excited to contribute to the well-being of millions of people worldwide.
Let's head back to Boston to hear what you have missed most about the in-person meetings.
It's really nice to be back in person. The last conference I attended was the APS March meeting in 2020, and that ended up being virtual. So that was kind of upsetting because I was presenting and I wanted it to be in person, but it's just nice to be back with everybody and be able to network in person and see all the presentations in person.
I'm a bit stressed because it's the first time I go to a conference to present my work, so a big time for me.
I'm actually shocked to go in the room and seeing so many people that are excited about science. I think that also would kind of lead to better questions, because sometimes during virtual one, people just rely on post-conference communications, while here you can kind of feel the energy and people in the room, and that people are actually interested in what your topics are and vice versa.
As we continue to advance information technology systems faster, more energy-efficient materials will be needed. The Institute on Functional Oxides for Energy-Efficient IT is working to help solve this challenge with their research on thin-film metal oxides.
In the Institute on Functional Oxides for Energy-Efficient IT, we focus on quantum and neuromorphic materials. Our vision is to address grand challenges in the field of information technology that target low energy consumption. So here we are at the Molecular Beam Epitaxy Laboratory. This allows us to grow epitaxial ultra-thin films.
To understand and optimize the physical properties of our materials, we use Raman spectroscopy, spectroscopic ellipsometry, XPS, electron microscopies, and scanning probe microscopies.
At iFox, we developed device concept based on our material growth expertise and physical insight that we gain with extensive characterization. All these devices are developed with an aim to integrate with silicon CMOS chips for neuromorphic computing.
iFox gives an excellent opportunity to expand my knowledge on a broad spectrum.
By creating the next generation of materials, we aim at a more sustainable future.
And that's all for our first episode of MRS TV. Make sure to join us tomorrow for more highlights from Wednesday, as well as a fascinating interview with Nobel Prize winner M. Stanley Whittingham. And don't forget, you can find us here at the Heinz Convention Center, in select hotels, on the homepage of the meeting platform, and online.
You are an MRS member. Your registration for the fall meeting includes a 1-year complimentary MRS membership that starts on January 1st. That also means that you have free electronic access to all MRS journals.
MRS is pleased to announce our publishing alliance with Springer Nature. New this year, all MRS journals, books, and archives are now published with Springer Nature. Visit MRS Publishing at booth 617 in the exhibit hall to explore publishing opportunities for your latest work. There is a journal for every materials topic and stage of research.
Join us for the excitement this week in the exhibit hall. Meet with nearly 80 international exhibitors in 100 booths. Enjoy a Tuesday afternoon snack break, a Wednesday afternoon candy buffet, and caricature sketches. Be sure to visit Tuesday and Wednesday from 11 to 5:30 and Thursday from 10 to 1:30.
MRS Advances publishes snapshots of work in progress on key materials topics identified by MRS meeting programming. The journal is indexed in the Web of Science, Emerging Sources Citation Index, Scopus, and Scimago. MRS Advances offers rapid review and time to publication, and papers cited count toward the author's H-index. Don't delay. Submit your manuscript to MRS Advances before the January 3rd deadline. Your opinion matters. Please take a minute during this very busy week to answer 3 quick questions about the 2021 MRS Fall Meeting. Use the MRS Meeting app to find the attendee satisfaction poll under the More menu. The poll closes Thursday evening. In 2021, MRS Bulletin launched MRS Bulletin Impact, a premier outlet for high-impact original materials research. Suitable original research articles feature hot topics, innovative work, and foundational contributions. Learn more about submitting a manuscript at mrs.org/bulletinimpact. Just think of the impact 10,000 letters could make. Take a few minutes to send convenient, personalized letters to your representatives on Capitol Hill and let your voice be heard. Open Monday through Wednesday, 9 to 4, in the Heinz Level 1 Prudential Corridor. The Materials Research Society is proud to share our diversity, equity, and inclusion aspiration that reinforces our long-standing organizational values. The Materials Research Society embraces diversity, equity, and inclusion by actively engaging our diverse global membership, supporting the careers of underrepresented researchers, and investing in community actions to address bias and end inequities. This aspiration reflects our commitment for a welcoming environment in which our members can advance our field with their research and innovations.
Empowering members in underrepresented groups through meaningful educational and career opportunities supports growth of the materials research community. NYS is actively engaging our diverse global membership through initiatives such as the PREM Scholars Summit, Women in Materials Science and Engineering programs, the UREM Student Science Writing Program, as well as skill building and career discovery webinars. The MRS Diversity and Inclusion Fund and the MRS Developing Country Membership Program make the Society more accessible to researchers around the world, and our advocacy work and special interest groups allow all materials researchers to have a home in the Society. MRS stands firmly against racism, discrimination, inequality, and all forms of bias. Supporting this aspiration are various programs and alliances, including unconscious bias webinars and Train the Trainer resources. MRS is a founding member of the Inclusive Graduate Education Network and an inaugural founding member of the Society's Consortium on Sexual Harassment in STEM. Both of these groups promote equity, inclusion, and professional and ethical conduct. Learn more about MRS's longstanding and new DE&I programs and initiatives and how these are supporting the Society as we work together to fulfill our DE&I aspiration statement.
Your contributions are vital to achieving our aspiration. Please contact us via our website at mrs.org/aboutmrs/contact-us or email us at volunteer@mrs.org to help MRS make a difference in the materials community.